Shortly before I got into a relationship with my wife, I met with a man of God who told me, my brother, your wife is going to be coming from your hometown, Ijebu precisely. I said, wow, thank you, man of God. Some months after that time, I met another man of God who said, where are you from? Ijebu. Your wife is coming from Ijebu. Again? Okay, no wahala. That was how I got the prophecy about the wife I was going to get married to coming from Ijebu.
In my own case, it was my uncle. He's actually a pastor and he operates in the prophetic gift of being able to see. So he's a seer. He had told me clearly, without mising words, that I was going to get married to a professor, someone in the academia. And aside from that particular prophecy, I remember that over the years, most of my friends kept telling me I was going to get married to a pastor, someone that God had already called and all that. And it was really interesting how these two major prophecies just kept lingering somehow in my head when I think about marriage. Today, I introduce to you my man of God. The person of Professor, Pastor, Tayo Bikoya.
Thank you, Pastor, Professor. Only me. Permit me to introduce to you Lady Osei from Ijebu. Osei from Ijebu.
I'm from Israel.
From Ijebu.
Now, there's that part of almost cutting out process. Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the comments, and subscribing. So if you haven't, please click the button below. In this episode, we're going to be sharing 4 hacks that can help you undress your spouse. Things you should look out for if you want to make that decision, or if you have to navigate that decision you've already made about choosing who to be with. We hope that's going to be a blessing as you watch.
Let's dive right.
Hack number 1.
Prayer. Like pray. This was a young man, talking about myself. Remember I told you guys that earlier, before I got into a relationship with her, I met 2 men of God, prophets here, and then they told me my wife was going to be coming from Ijebu. Meanwhile, at the time they were telling me all these things, I just left a relationship. Right, I was getting out of a relationship. I think the first one I was still in that particular relationship. The second one, I was out of that relationship, and then I was at the point where I was thinking, how do I navigate Ijebu? There will be times in my, behind my PC, I'm thinking Ijebu, and I'll be scanning through the whole of Ijebu land because I grew up in Ijebu. I'll be looking at different churches. This one in the choir, the other one, fair. I don't used to like fair ladies. I was scanning through the Ijebu. Then at another time I said, no. But there was something inside of me that wasn't resonating with those things that they told me. But what did I do? I just feel like, at this point, I've got to pray. So the only thing I did that saved my life from all the stress, scanning through, forming Mr. Google, distractions, I'll be there, just be thinking, I'll be looking at different churches in Ijebu, and 3 ladies came to mind. 1, 2, 3. She was one of them, and the 3 of them, fortunately, from my local assembly.
Holy God,
praise God. From my local assembly. So I was like, God, you want to help me now? Why are you giving me 3? Just give me 1, and then let just be 1. And this one I follow through. But I was like, okay, now that we have 3, I was just going, thinking about them, looking at them, doing my analysis, asking questions strategically, from other people. I got to a point that I felt I can't do this any longer. So I spoke to a brother, and he said, if you are experiencing this kind of thing, you have to first of all clear that web. You have 3. It's like you are in a web. 3 people in the same local assembly. What are you trying to do? You make sure that you clear the web and you have clarity. What I did was I wrote down their names, and it wasn't because somebody told me. I just felt that it was something I could do myself to bring that consciousness of I'm getting on the journey with God and I want to gain clarity. I wrote down the 3 names, and then I prayed, and I said, simple prayer, not 3 days dry fast. If you want to do dry fast, me, I cannot do dry. See you know the reason why. All right, so I wrote the names And then I prayed, God, please show me among these three. Let me know. Let thy servant be gracious unto your servants. Mind you, by this time, three of them were my friends. And for some reasons, after the prayer that I prayed, I did not pray that prayer twice. I can't remember praying that prayer twice. I can't remember why I kept the paper after that time. Two of them just were gravitating towards another direction, not coming close to me for, I don't know, I could not just understand the reason. I was like, I started thinking, what did I do? Is it that I don't keep up with this friendship again? I don't check on them. I was like, what's happening? What's going on? But I just realized that, it took me some time to realize, okay, I think this is what God is saying. So out of the three, he sorted. He had to take away the two. In that sense, I did not do anything wrong. I was a good friend to them. What I'm trying to say is that one of the ways you can discern quickly and accurately is to pray. When you pray, your sensitivity becomes clearer and God steps in to do the work, the heavy lifting for you. Imagine me not praying and I was like, three sisters, okay, I'll go and research Tumbo, like I don't even know how to say that thing. You want to research where she's from, research their family. By the time you are done, you are in your 6th year of research and you are not married yet. So prayer is just a shortcut for you to discern very quickly and accurately what God is saying about your spouse. Number 2.
Prophecy. So for me, everything started on the wings of prophecy. What is prophecy? Prophecy is just having a purview into the future. And for a Christian like me, I would say prophecy is hearing from God about something that's going to break out or happen in your life. In my case, when I wanted to get into that decision around who to marry, one of the things that really helped me undress person was going back to what I already received from God. So I had things that God had been telling me about my spouse prior to when I finally got to meet Tayo. So I just went back to my old journals. Prophecy comes in different ways, but for me, I think one of the most powerful ways to receive prophecy is the one that comes directly to you. Like, how do I say it? Let me say it this way. There's the part where pastors can see on your behalf. People that are over your life, your parents and all, they can say, oh, this is what we sense God is saying. But the powerful prophecy, the powerful angle I'm coming from for prophecy is prophecy that you receive from God personally, and every other thing coming is more like a confirmation. So in my case, there were things God has said specifically about the person's destiny, about what the person was going to be doing, about some things that would probably stand out about the person. That will make it easy to say, oh, this is a person God was bringing my way. And for example, one of the things God said to me at the time was, I was not going to get married to someone that was already ordained as a pastor. And that was something that was totally different from what most people had speculated about my spouse. So I had some things around prophetic words in the direction of marriage, and that was one way I was able to undress who God was bringing my way. What I will say again is, when you want to receive prophecy, the posture to take is one, be expectant, wait for it. When prophecy comes, you must make sure you steward it. And how you steward prophecy is by writing it down on tablet of your heart, writing down in your journal. And after you've done that, you must war with those prophecies. You must pray over them. You must speak them. You must keep declaring them until you see manifestation in that sense. So I would say for me, my journey around marriage was largely prophetic. There were many words that we received. There were dreams that confirmed words that we received. So when people were saying things about my marriage, it was just a case of, oh, God already said this to me, and it was easy for me to navigate that journey. Number 3, paying attention to events.
You need to pay attention to events. After you have prayed, it is important, you've received the word of prophecy, it is very important for you to pay attention to turnout of events. So you don't just pray, receive prophecy, and just go about your day as every other day. You have prayed, you've sown a seed, you've received the word, right? So it is important that you steward. While you are stewarding your word of prophecy, after God has intervened, it is important that you watch out for events. Hence the need to watch and pray, right? So for me, in my own case, what did I do? I was looking out for how events were turning out. I realized that after the 2 other people have moved away, after they had moved away from the old scene, I just realized that we were getting closer. We started talking. So before this time, we had something we were doing. It was just about accountability. I wanted to be accountable in this my life. So fortunately, she was the one who was my accountability partner, and somebody recommended her, And so, after that event, there was a day, one fateful day, I spoke with my MD while he was still around here in Nigeria. He called me, and see, there's the way God is working. You have prayed, you receive the word of prophecy, and it will surely, that God is not a wicked God. He will always send people, words around you, and then he has impressed it on the heart of faith to talk to me about marriage. I never told him anything, and he knew about it that I just escaped death, quote and unquote, the previous relationship. So it is not really a normal thing for him to do, to be talking to me about marriage just like 2 months or 3 months after, but because it is something God has impressed on his heart, we got on a call for more than 10 minutes or 15 minutes thereabout, and he was saying things around you pay attention to the people close to you, who is the closest person to you, the law of inner circle, paraphrasing right now. And after that time, lo and behold, I got onto a call with her again without telling her anything. And she was asking me one night like that. And she said, who is the closest person to you right now in your life? I was just like, what? And I thought about it for just 5 seconds or thereabout. And it dawned on me that she was the closest person to me at the time. So, these are the things I was paying attention to, because I was connected. I was able to connect my prayer, and then the kind of art impression I had, and the fact that I've seen 2 other people, they moved away. Now somebody asked me the question, who is the closest person? Pay attention to the closest person in your inner circle. She now asked me the same question without telling her. These are the things you pay attention to build up and for you to be able to verify and get to know the art of God on that matter. Some people will hear, my daughter, my son, Chinyere or Chinedu is your husband. Yeah, but everybody doesn't get that lucky, right? So if you don't have that, don't think that if you are waiting for that, you might grow old. So if you have gotten to pray about it and you've invited God, you've gotten a word of prophecy, the next thing for you to do is to start paying attention to events.
So good. In my case, I think it was a case of God was dealing with him on something at the same time was going on at my end. So I think the week Phil called him, like the Saturday of that same week, I got a call from one of my mamas. Also, shout out to Mommy Oji. She's in Canada, far away Canada. And the funny that since she left Nigeria, I've never really talked. She just called me from the blues. Long story short, at the end of the call, we had to talk about marriage. I was even trying to dodge the thought because I was not really in that mood. I was like, I don't have anything to talk about marriage. But at the end of the conversation, it was a case of she was asking me questions around, have you been praying about it? What's God saying to you? Summary was, after that call, what became clearer to me, because at that time, Tara and I were getting close. We were doing the accountability thing. I already had a dream. But the dream was like God pointing me in the direction of this is the person I'm bringing your way as your spouse. But even with all those things, I was still doubting. I was still wondering if is this the person. When you just want to be so careful not to make a wrong choice. And when Moji's call was like scales dropping from my eyes, because it was on that call I was able to come to that point to say, this matter that I was asking God about, God had already spoken to me, because I was telling her on the call that I had been praying about God confirming if this was my husband or if there's another one coming. And she was like, what if God has already given you the answer? And that's why you cannot hear anything new. And she was just like, go back to your journals. Summary, I went back to my journal and I found out that, the things God had said about my spouse, they were actually playing out already in the life of this person. And I could see many of the things matching. And that was how I was able to understand that this is the person God is bringing my way. God has brought my way in that sense. So yes, there was that part of paying attention to the turnout of events. There were things that were happening at the same time. Frequency, we used to call it frequency moments. When let's say I stumbled on a message on YouTube in the day, and in the evening when we are talking, he just tells me that there was nothing. Okay, we're not even dating then.
There was nothing like date then. It was Lady O.
So Lady O, there was this message I listened to earlier today, and we just found out that we were on the same message almost at the same time of the day. There were times we ate the same food at the same time. Like, it was just those moments of frequency. We could tell that our hearts were so knitted that we were doing the same thing actively without even knowing.
Even thoughts.
Yeah, like random thoughts that you just say this is random. I'll just say it and it's like that just crossed my mind. So we're having those experiences and we're both observing that okay, there's something here in that sense. So that paying attention to details is so powerful. This point about paying attention to details is just about being able to connect the lines backward. It's about being able to look at trends after you've prayed, after you said, oh, I received words from God, prophecy. The next thing is, okay, what is going on? This happened, and you're able to like connect the dots. That's just like the idea around paying attention to details.
Number 4.
Proposing strategic conversations. Now, what do we mean by proposing strategic conversations? So, if you follow us, we have talked about prayer, we've talked about prophecy, we've talked about paying attention to details. From that point, number 3, I think it gets to a point where you need to actually propose a strategic conversation.
Yeah.
Before you have that conversation, you already know what you have in mind, you already know what you're looking to achieve around the conversation. Some people will call it defining the relationship, but you know, the way the society has termed it today, like the way the impression people have is it must come from the guy because he's the one acting out in court. But I beg to differ, and I disagree. In my own case, like our story, I was actually the one that initiated our very first conversation around the whole relationship thing, if we're going to get married or whatever. So the point is, God has spoken. God spoke when you prayed. God spoke when He sent prophecies to you. The guy must speak. Whoever you're going to end up getting married to, you can't marry them on assumption. You can't keep thinking in your head, okay, I think something is going on. There has to be that part where you have to sit with this person, and as adults, you have a conversation around whatever stereos you're picking. So in our case, I had noticed that we're getting really close. I mean, I started getting concerned that this is too close for comfort. Like we were really talking on the phone, always like chatting and all that. I mean, it was just a lot, and I was like, okay, I like clarity in my life. I already knew he was my spouse, but the question was, he was really being so careful. Maybe talk about that part where we were so careful, so prudent.
All right. So for me, at the time she was picking out the steering, see, in our case, God was doing a simultaneous kind of work, right? Concurrently, was dealing with her, and at the same time was dealing with me. So there was no experience he was having that I was not having at my own end too. But you know, at the same time, but nobody was talking to anybody now.
So we're not comparing those.
I don't know, because we are not. Is that supposed to even be? No, because we're just like
we're just friends.
God is dealing with me, this married thing. There was a time I was even telling my brother, say, this lady, I getting too close. I'm afraid though. It's not because I'm lazy and a coward. Anyway, I talk to women. I mean, come on, I can do that. But the issue then was, I just stepped out of a relationship that it was like an escape, a narrow escape, right? 2 months or 3 months. But I was so sure in my mind that God is still on this matter. Say, okay, go and get married, right? We still want to get you married. We and myself and the host of heaven, we are on your matter. Go and get married. This is the season for you, and I don't want you to miss it, right? So I was not like, okay, 2 months. I just stepped out of this one. Now, God, you are pointing me to this person in church. I love my integrity so much that and self-respect that I was like, what if this thing doesn't work out? What if it doesn't turn out the way I was thinking? I meet this person and she's saying something different. What if she's not picking the vibration?
So many
vibrations, so many what ifs like that. And then, at some point, maybe because me, I was just coming out from it was so difficult for me. It's not because I can't talk to him. I mean, ask her now. This guy is sweet talker. All right, but it's talk and do at the same time. Right? But I was so careful. So because of that, I did not even say anything. I was hiding my emotions. The only thing I did to her, maybe she picked it. I just say, I like your style.
That was if I just was like, I like your style. I like your style.
What is the style?
Like he never came out clean that period. So that was the concern for me. I was just wondering if something was going on at his end, and I was like, let's not be like I'm the only one. Just alone on this journey, catching feelings and all that. And I had to actually propose a conversation. Thanks to my sister to also shout out to you, Treasure. So I told her about it. I was like, I see this guy, just give her the kiss. And she was like, okay, why don't you take him out on a date? I mean, imagine it was weird because most ladies would rather say, let the guy do the one to make that move. But I actually made the move, and you can't even imagine how much respect Tayo had for me from that time. So we had that first hangout where we just talked about every other thing. Then towards the end, I looked for a way to bring up the question. Of course, when you're defining a relationship, you don't have to make it so direct. What are you doing? What do you want from me? Are you around my life? No. You have to apply wisdom, right? I just asked him questions around, okay, I see how we've been talking of late, and I can't remember the right words I used, but the point was I got him to that point where we had to like compare notes and say, okay, are you getting any stirrings from God? What are you thinking and all that? And he was really kind, because some guys can be very funny, just want to play you. And they'll give you that impression like, nothing, you're just a sister to me and all that. But you know, deep down there could be something going on, but they're scared. They're not sure whether or not this is going to work. But Kaya was so kind. He didn't tell me that very day married me, but I was just like, yes, that God has been dealing with him. He shared a few of his experiences. I was even very quiet because I didn't want to tell him everything. I didn't want to come out and just say, yeah, my husband, I had a dream, I got this one. I was just like, okay, what is God saying? And he was just like sharing. And at the end of that conversation, it was easy for us to see that, okay, there's something here. So the point about this particular number 4, this particular point is, as a lady, let me speak for the ladies. If you think you've gotten words about a guy, a particular person, and you think God is pointing you in that direction for marriage, I think after you've prayed, after you've gotten the words, after you have paid attention to details, you might have to propose for a strategic conversation. In conclusion, clarity is progressive. What I mean by that is clarity about your spouse or even anything you're waiting on God for, trusting God about, doesn't just follow you. It's progressive. So the moment people start showing interest, you start getting suitors, it's normal that it might not be that very day you start praying that you now God will not clearly say, this is the person, this is the hair. Just commit to the process. If you're praying, make sure you're also looking out for prophecies. While you get the prophecies and you document them, make sure you're also looking at what is going on, because God also speaks to people through circumstances, turn out of events, and then that part of having to initiate a conversation. So those are the things. If you look at it, you realize that also that the responsibility of undressing your spouse does not only lie with God, doesn't only lie with God. So it's not only God that has that responsibility of undressing this person that you're coming into marriage with. There is a part you have to play. If you look at the point you also shared today, I'm going back again to those points. When you were praying, it lied with God to hear your prayer and answer, but you had to pray. The part of prophecy, God gives the prophecy, but guess what? You have a role to steward it, to write them down, to pay attention to them, not to forget them. The part of paying attention, that one is heavily on you. No matter how God is speaking and all that, if you are not looking at trends, if you're not paying attention to turn out of events, you will not pick what God is saying. And then that last part of proposing a conversation, obviously. So I want you to understand that even in undressing, because undressing looks like looking into that person's heart beyond whatever you can see on the surface. It's not just a God conversation, it's not just a God affair. There's that part of you. You've got a role to play. And then the last thing we'll say is around this part of beyond whatever you can see on the surface. God really knows what you need. So it is God that can actually reveal to you beyond what you can see on the surface. So, and that's the reason why you need to involve God at the beginning, not at the middle. Not when you are now saying, okay, want to go and get married. No. So, because God is the one who understands your needs perfectly, your perfect need. And most times, God communicates what He knows to be your needs to you in some ways, and then you pick those vibrations. And along the line, somewhere along the line, you forget those things, and you begin to pick some other interests, and you begin to say, okay, this is what I like, because you can, maybe because of the company you keep, because of the world you found yourself, because of the people you roll with, because of the kind of culture you have in your workplace, and you see your boss, married XYZ kind of lady, and then they are attracted to this kind of lady. What you are seeing on Instagram, for instance, too, and you begin to have those kind of cravings, and then
God will now ask you. For me, in my case, at the point when I realized that she was the one, and I was like, am I really going here? And he told me, asked me that question one morning like that. What exactly do you want? And I was quiet. I couldn't say anything because I knew that there was a time he told me, not telling me in that sense. I've always known what I wanted. So for over time, everything changed, and then because of all these things, I lost track of what I've always wanted. I've always wanted in a woman, but God had to remind me. And then because He knew, He had to. If I had not invited Him, maybe that thought wouldn't have come to me, because He had to ask me that question. If I did not invite Him, God is not a talkative.
So really, that's just what it is. At the end of the day, God knows what we need beyond our wants, and only God can actually navigate you on that journey.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you again for your comments, likes, shares, feedback. If you have not subscribed and you have watched this video until now, subscribe please. Thank you for subscribing, and then we will see you in the next video. Bye. About a year before I met, no, not before I met. Okay, I'm going again, don't worry. About a year before I got into a relationship with my dear wife, who is my dear wife right now. No, that's not what I want to say it. Don't worry.
What's going on?
Just master your own line. About a year before I met and
just say years before I got into a relationship. You must not say about years. A year.
Not a year, not years. So don't let it look like it's far. It was just 1 year in between.
When did you
before I
that
got
man?
back from Ibadan?
What year was that?
2021.
2021.
Yeah.
That was even the year we started. Okay, we started the relationship next year.
Yep. Shortly before I got into a relationship with a man.
Don't be too serious.
Alright,
No.